Ulonkata bati yada tó yẹ kó máa da ifá. Inú tó yẹ kó jẹun ló fi bí pa. Ọba tálá, ọba takuntakun. Ṣàngó, Èṣù, Ògún, Ọya, Ọ̀ṣun. Ìwọ ló ń bọ̀ nílé. Kí ni ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ tán ṣe nílé yìí o? Ó jẹ́ lọ jára.
Alaafia, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I am your host, Orisha, and today we are joined by none other than the Oba Aala Baba Ifa Kerade. Alaafia, peace and blessings. Baba, how you doing today?
Okay. Baba Orisha, I'm well. I'm glad to be here. To be here. Rejoicing. My soul is dancing. All right. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we're gonna right the ship though. We ain't gonna have that be a consistent thing for sure. I can say that to say the least, because we got a whole lot going on right now that we got to talk about. So first and foremost, we're gonna give a shout out to the tribe, man. Tribe out here, tribe, and we appreciate the love, the support, everything as usual. We definitely appreciate you all, the comments, feedback, the shares, all that good stuff. Also, we celebrated a birthday yesterday, man. Ashe has officially turned 1 year old. 1 day to the birthday, which was yesterday. Our very first episode was launched on 4/8/2024. So here we are 1 year later celebrating. Shout out to the tribe, man, the nation, the institute. Shout out to everybody who's been a part of the journey from day one, man. We got a whole lot more coming, and we're just getting started. And if you didn't know, now you know we here now.
Ojo Ebi. It's our birthday. Everything is right. The new year, doing tum tum. We are rejoicing. We're having, we're having a great time, and we're looking forward to yet another magnificent year. Solar return. You understand? The sun is always shining.
Yes, sir. Yeah, speaking about the sun, we're gonna talk about them suns because there's more than just one. So that's another episode. That's another topic, but it's coming. It's coming. Yes, sir. So yeah, we're gonna get into that in the very near future. Try. So Baba, let's get to business, man. This thing called Alaase and Ashuada and Ifa Isese.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm taking it from the premise that, many of our listeners have been around for a while. It's been a year. Yeah. So the foundation is basically set, but we are pretty well established in our concept and in the concepts that, we receive from others as they are conceptualizing and not just ritualizing, although there's nothing wrong with ritualizing, but we need to have some idea of what we're doing and why, where it started. Okay. Speculation, but where it's taking us and where it's going to end, that's determination. So within that light, Orisha embraced, Egun embraced, okay, Orunmila embraced. The focus now becomes, how does all of that weave sink into, be braided within the development of we who are of Ifa Isese. Okay. So it's understandable that we, of course, want to gather in our ilays, our egbays, etc., etc. Okay. But from a point of analogy or analogously speaking, we can have those who gather at church services, those who gather at Islamic services, making Juma and everything. And they're recognized in their community as, okay, we're Christians, we're Muslims. Okay, even the people who kind of get into the Hinduism kind of thing, it's like, okay, we meet at our temples, our Buddhist temples, etc. And it's like, okay, we're identifiable, we're recognizable. But the major part of that is what we're doing in our communities, how we are establishing ourselves as a visible statement of not only solidarity, but also a developmental progression of the communities that we represent, the societal impact that we're having, or should I say, the impact that we're having on the society, and encompassing what is our impact on the world. Okay, what legacy, to coin our phrase, what legacy are we leaving on the world? Okay, now this brings us to the term of Ashuada. Interestingly enough, through all of my years of exploring Ifa, Isese, you know, beginning with the syncretisms, okay, but you know, not really being fulfilled by it. But again, that's just me. Okay, taking notes, journalizing, daring to question, not being antagonistic, but just being, you know, savvy enough as a grown man at the time, because we have to remember when many of us, or dare I say most of us, began this journey, we weren't children. We were adults. Many had jobs, 2 or 3 of them. Many had children, 3 or 4 of them. Okay, been through relationships, been through time. So we're approaching Ifa and Isese like we are citizens of the world. We are citizens of this earth complex, and we recognize ourselves as responsible for ourselves. We've been responsible for our children. We've been responsible for our parents. Okay. And so there was no need to give up that responsibility for the sake of African traditional religions, because that is contrary to being involved in an African traditional religion where our ancestors were clearly responsible for their families, for their tribes, their tribal nations, and their empires. And we seem to miss that in the pursuit of the supernatural. Okay? Ashuada. This is the term that I came to understand via studies, via cross-referencing, via some discussion with some of the Yoruba initiates whom I associated with at the time. It was like, yeah, well, this concept is vibrant. Okay? This concept of building community, this concept of building with our hands, Ire or woe. You know, we talk about the Ori, and we go through our Iboris, and you know, and this thing going the Ori, the Ori, the Ori, and we even don't hear much about it being the consciousness of our body, but there is. And I specifically referenced in Benin, where those who work with their hands, those who build the community, are recognized, okay, and awarded, and a symbolic statement of carved hands to show that you have been a vital part in the building of our community. You have been recognized as having an influence on the foundation that sets for the growth of our nation. This is Ashuada. Okay. Now, clearly, there may be reasons why it's not discussed. There may be reasons why many people who have been in Ifa, Isese, or any of the syncretisms for so long have not been privy, if I dare say, to the term and what it entails, not just implies, but what does it entail? What do we do to make the term Ashuada more than an abstract, but a concrete? Okay. And of course, okay, being involved with Orisha, being involved with the veneration of ancestors, you know, of the song, the dance, the recitation, being Iyas and Babas and Babalaos and Iyanifas, you know, all that is in the pursuit of what we embrace as spiritual happiness. However, to do so and not lend that essence, lend that knowledge, lend that understanding and wisdom back to the community, okay, in my humble opinion, is a shortcoming. It is a misdirection. Okay. Now, I still work in the school systems, college, high school, and it dawned on me recently that I can walk down those halls and I can hear people, okay, addressing themselves or each other, okay, in religious terms, in spiritual communication. You know, on a good day, you may even hear a few namastes, all right, going back and forth. And God bless you, even when people sneeze. You understand this? So the whole culture of the religious dimension, the religious aspect, are weaved in to the language, okay, to the literature, and to the profession. Go to the accountant and see, for the picture of Jesus right there in his office. And I said, isn't this interesting? Okay. But what I don't see, okay, and I discussed somewhat with the Ojise classes, this language of invisibility, okay, which goes far beyond speaking. Where are we visibly in the construct of the culture of which we are part of? Where are we in the literature? Okay. Where are we even amongst ourselves? Are we recognizing one another? Do we have terms that, go beyond, we're in some big secret society and nobody needs to know, what these elekes mean. And nobody needs to hear us say, Ije Ifa Lagba, behold, Ifa is the greatest. Nobody needs to hear us say, Olorun Tobi, God transcends. And I'm like, wouldn't it be something if under the banner of Ashuada, people of Ifa and Isese kind of take a little step to the right and say, okay, now that I know who my Orisha is and I got a number of pots and, now that I kind of got all of this, what am I going to do? What am I representing? Not just on the earth plane, but what am I in pursuit of in terms of beyond the earth plane? Am I still looking at pearly gates as heaven? Am I still looking for, the white bearded, blue eyed God? Am I still so affected, okay, by the Abrahamic? And I'm not saying this as a negative. I'm an observer. I'm a scholar. I'm a philosopher. I wear that. Okay. But when it comes down to what's mine, what's ours, Ifani Sheshe, clearly somebody has to stand guard. Okay? And somebody has to be willing to say, let's train. Okay? Let's project ours just like others are projected. We are not in the basement. We are not shadows. Okay? We are not so secretive with our extrasensory perceptions that we can't even really greet each other without going through 10 pages of protocols. Oh, you didn't bow down to me, or you didn't say this and you didn't say that. You know, I'm like, can't you just, you know, I see you. Peace, brother. You know, Alafia. Share Alafia. And then we say, share Alafia. We're back. Every other group can do it. They don't seem to be scared. Okay. Are we hiding behind our fear? And that's why we're so secretive and so drawn? Or do we really feel as though we're into something so supernatural that we can't even assist in the growth of our communities? I mean, on a real basis. I'm not, I'm going to pray everything away, or the Orisha going to come down and save us from police brutality. It's like, okay, come on. Okay. How are we being represented? You know? So that's Ashuada. Are we in the school systems? You know? Or are we in the athletics? You know? Why does it seem like we're just whispers in the wind? But everybody's so daggone, you know, powered and empowered. And I'm like, maybe it's time to put our feet on the ground and raise our communities harmoniously, and bring about a change. Ojise or Risha Bami, I'm gonna.
Yes, sir.
If we have any, you know, responses or comments.
Yeah, primarily comments, but I wanted to touch on it. Like I agree with pretty much everything you were saying in regards to like the invisibility. You know, that's something that you know we did cover extensively in OGC and Institute, and I recall like I think one of my favorite parts about the Institute is the dialogue, like towards the end of the class when we kind of go over the overview and then the, you know, the Q&A aspects of it, where we get each other's perspectives, and then we kind of tie that into how we kind of formulate our own summary based upon what, you know, what we learned in the class. So for me, I think that's something that I love about that, but also I want to incorporate doing that here on Ashe, because it's funny. I don't know who it was that said, like, man, the class is almost over. What we're going to do? I'm like, we're going to keep going with Ashe. We ain't finna stop. We're going to keep rolling until the next semester. But I say all that to say that the invisibility is a wrap. And I've been saying it and talking about it for the longest, and I haven't brought it to fruition, but it is, you know, time now for it to come to fruition about this so-called invisibility, because one of the things I've always studied and researched since 1994, to be exact, is the metaphysical aspects of, you know, our existence on this planet. And when you're talking about metaphysics, you're talking about, you know, as above, so below, as within, so without. And there's so many different, I feel like, truths that are being revealed now that is surreal in some aspects, because when I was studying and researching these existences, it was like people was getting murdered and assassinated for speaking the truth. You know what I mean? It didn't matter what color you was, because of, you know, whatever color of the skin, depending on the level of breach you had, and, you know, the level of how much of an impact you can make with just your words of sharing the sheer truth, you know, it could cost you your life. You know what I mean? So it's like we've seen it with historical, you know, cultural figures that, you know, have unfortunately suffered that demise. But I feel like at this point in time, there's so much elevation in the frequency of consciousness on the planet that it's impossible for it not to, you know, permeate throughout the rest of the planet. And that's what I see with what we're doing here and what I say. And I love how, excuse me, how you always kind of like a weatherman forecast the future, you know, in regards to what are we doing this for. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate, the way this tribe has kind of, came together, collectively, effortlessly, is to kind of bring about a foresight and vision about for the future. And that's what I'm looking forward to, man. That's what I'm looking forward to. Yes, sir.
And in light of that, any of the tribe, any of the nation, some comments we want to look at right quick?
I think everybody just listening, honestly.
All right.
I mean, I know the questions will come. They're gonna come when we start warming up, when we get we get real hot. That's how it usually happens. But I got some questions. I ain't gonna never be without some. So when it comes to when you say like the differences between like the Alaase and Ashuada, you were speaking about how there was groups of people who you were with or connected to in the culture. Do you feel like most people who know the definition of what Alaase and Ashuada means are consciously or intentionally working towards living the embodiment of those particular two terms of your that mean a lot in regards to Yoruba culture?
Yes, sir. I would have to say yes.
Okay.
The mark of differentiation, is one's intellect, one's destiny, their ayanma. What did you come here with the capacity to do? Right? My capacity, for example, is a writer, a philosopher. And what happens is that I'm starting to draw more people of that type of experience into what we would call Ashuada. Okay. And I'm just using myself as an example, okay, but with no hesitation, okay, because I observe myself as well. Now, here we have a group of dynamic individuals whose destinies are aligned. I just call them kindred, okay? And that's not excluding others, but it's just bringing forth the core of those who are the writers, the world travelers, those who are the teachers, those who profess and not just teach, those who show that they are insightful, and keeping in mind that Ifa or Rumila is stated as you would connect Ababa Rishabemi to Tehuti of ancient Kemet, and that a number of other divinities and deities who were actual people who become deified. Now, I say all that to say this. Those who form the group, okay, and I just use that for plural, but those who form that cohort, that cadre, that egbe even of writers, okay, of those who would see permeating Ashuada, okay, pushing Ashuada through literature, like the Wole Soyinkas and the Ben Okris. You understand? The Caradays, you know what I mean? Got books coming out, literature coming out. We're teaching from our books because that's what flows through us in our capacities. Now, let's just say that that's one part of the Ashuada. There are others whom I've known, okay, who are business people. They're not the writers. They're, you know what I mean? Okay, fine. But they're studying how to improve businesses. And the connection I made with those individuals, okay, in assistance to bringing that about that fruition, is that some of those businesses are still running and have been running for 16, 24 years. So, we've established, because that was one part of the Temple of the Mystic Path, Ile Tawoluna, Okay, the blessing of the elders that I received coming back now to say, you form a temple, not form a business, form a temple. The business part will generate based on those people who are drawn to it. Okay, now out of that, we started to see some people had a greater capacity for business.
Right.
Okay. Just like I would say now, I'm working with people who have greater capacity for writing, literature, art. Okay. Beautiful pictures. Okay. Coming through, for example, Sister Shah Goddess. Okay. So we have this kind of thing happening. So we start to harmoniously connect with individuals who have the capacities. Okay. And they are expressing it. And if they are a little hesitant about it, this is where I come in, as the elder priest, Oba, whatever the terms or titles may be. But at the end of the day, if I'm not assisting in building the nation via the tribal, via the families, via the individuals, by way of Ifa and Isese, then it's just sitting pretty. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's just sitting pretty when there's work to be done. But that work is not going to happen if we don't have the people who can do what they do as assigned before they were born into this world physically. Okay. But to be able to recognize that and pull things together and get things done, like we did with Ojise Institute, like what's happening with Ashe right here, this podcast. Okay. So we're not just talking it. We're doing it. And you don't have to be an influencer. Oh, I got, 10,000 followers. I'm like, so what? You can be followers, you do off a cliff. Okay. But what do you have that's constructive to our community? What fuel are you providing for the continuation of Ifa and Isese on a real, tangible, metaphysically immersed physical reality? Because metaphysics is fine, but if it's not imbued and put into the physical, then perhaps we wouldn't even be here. In the flesh, in the bone, in the blood.
Yeah.
We are sitting dust. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We got some comments and questions now too. I'm gonna share the comment first because the questions are gonna take some time to unpack. But this was I like this one because he said, agree, we need to minimize the pageantry of Ifa Isese and maximize the action in Ifa Isese. Now, that's facts. And I feel like that's a cult. Bro, you said he hit it. That's a cultural statement right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, absolutely what Ifa Isese, but shoot, culturally, globally, we need to do that. For real. So yeah, I like that. I like that, bro.
Be like my brother Troy in Burkina Faso.
It's also, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the spark right there. That's what I'm talking about. That's like the all spark. It only takes that one spark and then a ripple effect. Matter of fact, what is it called? I know you know it, Baba. I'm having a brain fart right now. Actually, it's called the butterfly effect, where like a butterfly could flap its wings across the globe, but it has enough impact over the ecology of nature to where I believe if it flaps its wings at the right particular time, it can cause like a tornado or like a massive natural disaster or natural occurrence or event across the globe. I cannot think of what the way it ties together, but I'm gonna have to definitely break that down and show it. You know what I mean, on screen, because that's real. Like, it really takes a spark of information and energy, and it permeates throughout the atmosphere and then throughout the globe. So it's like that's what we definitely do.
So here we have those instances, and as we study the quote unquote slave revolt, okay, which is, you know, again, back to terminology, making invisible, okay, because I mean, you weren't calling the Revolutionary War a slave revolt or anything like that. But you know, we always got to have this term slave put on us. You know, we could be freedom revolts, okay. You know, back to the invisibility part. We're shaded, we're cut off from the heroic, we're cut off from the empowerment. But the more we study it and the more we put our intensity due to our involvement in Ifa and Isese, you know, I would say that if you're not in this to grow, if you're not in this to intensify and build on that fire inside of you, you know, then I'll get back to the use of the brother's word. You know, you just want pageantry, but that's okay, because there are people who will, you know, they'll come on over here. Okay, don't forget your purse. All right, so you get with the pageantry, and you got that. Yeah, but see, but that's okay. It's a vast universe, and there are many stars in it. Okay, but the whole thing is, you know, when we start to step away from the invisibility and into the visibility, like I shared in class, where some people were kind of pushing back at me for saying, you know, well, we didn't really fight back. You know, I'm like, they got you. They got you. You so invisible, you can't even see yourself. You can't even see yourself. Okay. And you proclaim your blackness, or you proclaim, you know, your struggle, but yet when the visibility factor comes in, you step away. You know, you don't want to accept that Jesus might have been black. Okay, you know, or let me go back in terms of the story of why wouldn't he have been, based on geography and, you know, genetics. But I digress. But people did they, when it comes to the visibility of heroics, and when it comes to the visibility of, yes, we did fight back no matter what we were told, and in terms of the numbers and percentages, okay, we may have been put on the all wrong other side of history, but that wasn't because we didn't fight back. There were laws in Ohio that were worse than South African, and even with the Jews in freaking Germany. I mean, up till recently, study what's going on in Mississippi. You know, that every time we try to do something, more people were lynched. Black people who were business people. We just say, oh, well, so-and-so was lynched, but we don't see that they had farms. We don't see that they had businesses. You know, we don't see that they had families who had to flee, who had to get out of there and head up to Chicago, for example. See, we're not studying that because we're invisible. We don't see ourselves fighting back, or, you know, coming up with strategies to deal with the madness perpetrated, okay, by those who oppress us. They're not just oppressing us. They're not just killing us, okay? Because even after they do kill us, okay, they don't even want our dead to exist. If you're following what I'm saying, you know, they kill us, and then they kill our dead. So
they try to.
The fact that we're still here means that it's not 100%, but it is great enough for us to take action against it. And the Ifa Isese is a vehicle of doing that. Talking you know, one of the sisters, and we were talking about shrines, okay? Ojubo. Most people don't know Ojubo okay, is where you face yourself, where you come to see and braid in the essence of the Orisha. It's not just this the whole Abrahamic thing. I'm giving,
Right.
but it goes into the agnostics and the Sufis who are like, it's a reciprocalness. You know, I am a part of the consecration of myself.
Yeah.
And when somebody consecrates something for me, like anything from OB all the way up to your Ifa, your King, okay, it has to be pinpointed within yourself. What are you doing? What are you being open to, so that you are a part of the consecration and not just receiving the object that has been consecrated for you? You see?
Yes.
Now this led to, and then I'll pause.
Yep.
This led to A Place of Nights, War and Resurrection. Okay, working with Sister Adeola. Okay, who is basically is now the ambassador. Okay, she knows, call her, she's ambassador, Sister Adeola. Okay, so the whole thing is that when we start talking about our pots, or Orisha pots and all of that, I said, now, wouldn't it be interesting, you know, based on how people are responding to this particular novel, that we see it as a pot? And we pondered it for a moment. It was like, okay, so if the book becomes something that you go to in order to identify with, resolve, okay, predict, okay, well, what's going to happen? Not what's going to happen just in the life of the character, but what's going to happen in my life. Because see, I'm now connected. The book was written so it speaks to us as a people. It's bringing us into the visibility of ourselves, as opposed to reading books that basically don't include us or have us always in trauma or in chains, you know, either actually or metaphorically. So now, you know, we have a book that is being of service to our people, Ashuada style. Okay. And it's like, can that book become an Orisha? Huh. Okay. Can it? And we came to the conclusion, that it could. You can be transformed by a book. You can be set to consecrate yourself through the waters of your own tears. When you start realizing how much you have to change, how deeply you have to go to really feel and weep for your people, how courageous you have to be to walk into that place where we suffer, those places where we suffer. Social workers, teachers in the hood, like myself, okay? People who work in prisons with those of us who are incarcerated. You know, where are we taking our consecrated selves? In order to be visible, we have to be strong. And we have to be strong enough, again, to baptize ourselves with the water of our tears and say, I'm going to do something about this. If I got all this ashe, well, then fine. Fine. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it?
Ashe. I got a good question that Adana had for you, Baba. Find it real quick. So
Peace,
here.
Adana. Okay.
Yes, sir. So yeah, Donna had so Ashuada is community, communal balance. Is that correct?
Yes, Queen. Okay. It is. Okay. and easier said than done, as some might say. But we're pulling it together, and here on this channel, okay, Ashe podcast, and here with Ojise, and here with the books, okay, that I utilize. They're my weapons and my shield. Okay, we are forging in a very Ogun-like manner. Okay, the way of completing Ashuada. Okay, the way of fulfilling Ashuada. The way of leaving the legacy of Ashuada. Okay, within the Ifa and Isese, or under the auspices of Ifa and Isese. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, Queen. Okay, Baba Rishabami.
Ashe. Let me see. I got another comment from Shot Goddess. The etymology must change, but we have been accustomed to the white supremacy, so-called white supremacy, and so-called white savior, and more embedded idea. Yeah, that's that crab in the barrel mentality, man. That's that trauma, wanting to sit at the table with master and all that foolishness.
Yeah. But again, there's reasons for it. Okay, and those reasons are not within our control. Okay, there are post-traumatics, slavery disorders, Sister Shaw, we touched on the psychosis, and in view of our discussion, I was reversing it. The psychosis is not only a psychosis that damages us, but the psychosis is really, born of them. We're infected with their psychosis. We're infected with the psychological trauma that becomes a part of the genetics, okay, the epigenetics, okay? So it's not by choice. I can remember vividly, being in meetings and being in classrooms where even young students, okay, would be like, well, Black folks, it's like in this country, Black folks aren't doing anything. Like comparatively speaking, we don't have anything because, we're looking now at statistics. How many Black businesses are there compared to Asiatics, compared to Jewish, compared to Anglo? Oh, trust me, we way down at the bottom. And this becomes part of the language of invisibility. You understand? But when I start teaching the reasons why we don't have it, okay, the direction or the course of the conversation changes a bit, because the assumption is, oh, we're just born lazy, or all of the slavery, okay, statements and terms derogatory that are placed on us and imbued in this society, in this country, and other countries as well, okay, that has become a part of their constructed invisibility formula. Is social engineering. Okay. So when we start to look at, okay, why don't we have businesses? Oh, well, they weren't giving Black people loans like they were giving other people. They were herding us into projects and, places that they can have easy access to in case we reared up like close to turnpikes. Okay. So when we started to discuss again, how many people with businesses were lynched. Okay. There were just folks out there walking down the road. They were successful business people, okay, and people who had land. you know? So then when we started to talk about these things from the veneration of our ancestors, from being in Ifani Isese, I'm like, we have to draw back the curtain of invisibility and see what actually happened and is happening. Okay. We are people of nations. We are people of empires. And to be involved in Ifani Sheshe and not give recognition to that at every daggone Elay meeting, at every daggone podcast, at every daggone time we see each other and recognize you are king, not in terms of position, but in terms of mentality. You are queen. Not every woman sat on the throne. Come on, let's be for real. But every woman can think higher than her physical and earthly primal being and ascend unto Oshun, ascend unto Jemoja, ascend into Orisha, to Oya. You understand? So this is the power of Ifani Sheshe that is being danced around, not put in any emphasis on. You know, we seem to want to put Catholicism more as a lead than the actual, you know, behind the scenes, and turn that behind the scenes to in front and say, our people, okay, are powerful. We suffered the heavy hand of history just like every other people on this planet. But it came at a time when folks was coming up with some real wicked stuff. And now we got to come up with some real righteous stuff in order to reverse the epigenetic infection, the curse upon us. You know, we can do it. The mere fact that we're here is an indication that we are doing it. Okay? But we have to come from that 0.001% and infuse our people, embed this teaching into our communities, into our schools, into our literature, and into understanding that this is what we must do. Okay. Ashe Baba Rishabem. Okay, doesn't have the resources to bring into fruition their destiny that can strengthen us as a people. Well, that's absolutely true. Ogun Sola, that's absolutely true. Okay. Yeah. But you know what? Now, I grew up at a time when folks in the hood would put their money together and get drugs and sell drugs. Okay. I grew up at a time, you know, when grandmas were out there scrubbing floors in order to make sure that their grandbabies had a shot at college. You understand? I was there. My mother used to take me with her, you know, mopping floors and carrying on. I was like 4 or 5 years old. Okay. She could come, I got to go to work, you know? And I saw one piece that really touched me. It was like, you know, I never saw Jesus walk on water, but I did see my mother stand out in the cold to catch a bus to get to work, to make sure that we had food on the table and a roof over our head. Now, I don't know what you call religion, but that's what I call religion. My mother is my savior. Okay. So, you know, kind of pulling all that together, yes, it seems that we don't have resources. But what I'm saying is when we pull back that veil of invisibility, okay, we find that we do have the resources. Okay. Our ancestors were coming up out of enslavement, chattel enslavement, made less than the beast, breeded like dogs, and went on to form Tulsa, Rosewood, and other black cities that, what happened? Bombed, burned. So to say we don't have resources, from the visibility of what I have seen through my years and through my studies, is like, yes, we do. We do. Now, do we have the ability to pull it together and invest largely to bring about the Ashuada, the harmonious? Okay. Would we form a part of a city to say this is the Ife, Ifa, Isese part of town, like you have the Jewish parts of town, like you have the Chinese parts of town? We do have the resources to do it, but we are still suffering from the post-traumatic slavery disorder and the epigenetics. But Ifa and Isese, as stated in Iwori Meiji, that will mend our broken worlds. Okay.
I sure.
What is Chachita saying, brother?
Shout out to Baba Amendola for that. Ifa will mend the world. She's saying that so there is a spiritual mental state in the study for the work and the teachings that brings about the creative aspects. Within that, it grows and evolves, bringing the esoteric into the exoteric forever. Ashuada. Yeah, Shakita. I see that in ancient Kemet. Honestly, I mean, because to think about it, everything starts within, and I feel like that's where these parasites that were controlled previously controlling the globe. That's where they had a stronghold on it. Is like being able to kind of put this dark cloud over who and what we are in regards to us as a people. You know what I mean? In regards to the sheer essence of us as a people, as a divine people. And when you were speaking about the mother and the grandmother out there, doing what she had to do in regards for, the family, that reminded me of the divine mother, whether we talking about the cosmic mother in the universe or we talking about the mother earth of Onile, who, what I'm saying, I'm repping with that, her, it's a divine alignment, that divine feminine energy. But I thought about the balance of Maat. You know what I mean? Like you have to go through that divine feminine, construct in order to really be of anything, because the womb man is the creator. You know what I mean? Like there's no way around it. You know what I mean? So it's like whether we're talking about from the cosmic, from the planetary, or even from us in a biological aspect, the mother has always been the provider and the glue to who and what we are as a people. And so we got to come back to building that up, uplifting that, and embodying her and putting her where her rightful position is, in a matriarchal society versus where it's at from the former society.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, I want to move on to the Alaase.
We got. Let me see. We got a couple more. You want to take some more? You want to hit that first and then come back, Bubba?
Let's take some more. Let's hear from the people.
Okay. So we got. Let's see. I don't know if I hit that one yet or not. No. Okay. Here we go. So. She said, I suppose my question is, how does a person fulfill Ashuada? Ashuada.
Okay. Just spell it not too often. It's just an A instead of an E, but we good. Okay. We take poetic license. We can do that.
The tomato, tomato, potato.
All right. How does a person fulfill it? Well, let's talk about mentorship. I mean, just like in a business.
Yeah.
Okay. You have your mentorship. Just like studying martial arts, you have your senseis and your sifus. This is another dimension of the invisibility that we don't see. It's like, oh, I gotta go get initiated. Oh, I got this and I got that. Well, that's fine, okay, but that's just a part of it. And as I say, if you spiral long enough and you come to these kind of understandings via these kind of presentations, discussions, if you will, and it resonates with you, it's like, okay, I need to study. I need to learn. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody's putting this into any kind of perspective because everybody is kind of stuck what they're doing and where they are.
Yeah.
See? So now it's like, okay, the switch, okay, is on. So study on it. It's not so deep and mysterious and I mean, it's we casting spells and I want to be a psychic reader and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, you can go, you can study it. You can join OGC Institute. You know what I mean? We can make it a part of not only a discussion, but an actual, tangible venture. We're going to venture into what way, for example, okay, Oloye Baba Ifa Karade, what are you doing to bring Ashuada into fruition? And I would say, well, this week or over this span of time, I did this and that. Okay, well, Ogunsula, what have you done? Okay, well, I did this, and that. And the next thing you know, whoever's taking notes is like, daggone, something is happening here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something is happening.
Oh yeah.
Okay. We got businesses being started with Baba Orisha being the entrepreneurship. This is Ashuada, bringing it all together like fingers on the hand. Okay, and saying we
here now.
We do resources. We here now. Okay.
Yes, sir.
We've proven ourselves on the battlefield. Okay. And it is by means of clarity that we ascend to Orisha, not just pageantry. Okay. Clarity. Because the very nature of essence can bring us to understanding if we strive to be clear. And once we have that clarity,
that's it.
Okay, that transparency.
That's it.
Which brings me to a little break. When we talk about Oba Aala, Baba Amin, King of the White Cloth, okay, my brother as well, King of the White Cloth. But I always had a little difficulty accepting that. Because even in Ejiak Beg, when Oshun asked Orumila, what color should we, the Orisha, don? What will distinguish us? And Orumila said, all Orisha people wear white. And I said, well, if that being the case, then why would Oba Aala be the king of the white cloth? When this is something that worked out between Orumila and Oshun. But see, here we go, the inquisitive mind. All right. Then upon later study, I come to look at this word, okay, Oba, and then Ta'ala. Allah means clarity and transparency. Oba Aala is not the king of white cloth. White is fum, like efum, okay? But Allah is clarity. Allah is transparency, being able to see with clarity and being able to be seen with clarity. Back to the invisibility kind of epiphany that I had, Mofedi. Oba Aala for giving me the insight to say, you work on clarity. You help people understand the importance of being transparent, of being, as a Rumila would say, an Inayangidi, of having that balanced character, of being an authentic human being, of having that oneness with nature, of being an authentic human being, of having that understanding of progression without consistent regression, being an Inayangidi, an authentic human being. You can't be authentic if you're not clear. You can't face your Ojubo, which is facing yourself, and not be clear, and not be transparent, and not being seen as we used to say back in the day, man, are you for real? You can't be for real from where you coming from. Okay. So it's like, all right, we're starting to get it. Okay. We're starting to see ourselves, which is an overall premise of being involved in any shape shift. Okay. All right. So yeah, just want to go from that.
We got another one. If you don't mind, Baba, I would like to jump up on this one.
Oh, please. Oh, I see the growth.
Yes, sir. I want to jump up on that one right there. As a matter of fact, man, yeah, I want to. Okay, so yeah. So I'm gonna answer it first, and then I'm gonna get some help, some receipts to kind of bring the point home with my answer. But to answer your question, brother, yes, I definitely believe that it hindered our collective economic growth, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. That was the whole purpose of integration. And if you do any type of research on Martin Luther King, especially towards the later days before he was assassinated, you will see that he realized at a certain point that he wasn't doing the best thing with leading that initiative for the integration, because that's when he became a target to where they went ahead and took him out, is because once he hit that point where he realized that, and I'm sure you can see that, or you've heard the quote before, where he felt like he said he led his people into a burning house. Like, that's when he realized, yeah, this ain't what I thought it was, or what, whatever his reasons for doing that in the beginning. Once he got to a certain threshold and he saw who and what he was dealing with, he realized the mistake that he made by trusting that devil who wanted to help him to be the puppet to push that, narrative of that integration thing, because that was the whole purpose of it. You're dealing with the people who are children in regards to us. If you look at the math and you do the historical data and research, you'll see that you will find melanated remains on this planet that are millions of years old. And this particular being, who has been in control of this society for the last, I don't know, 500 something plus years, let's just say in America, the little control, but globally, this particular race, or I should say seed of people, or kind of mankind, has been kind of manipulating this culture in the world for thousands of years, with war, with pillaging, with raping, the planet, as well as cultures and societies and civilizations. So who would you want to be? I should say, what civilized group of beings or people would want to be intermingled or entertained with a kind of man who portrays themselves as a man, but who really acts barbaric and has the characteristics of an animal? So therefore, no, I don't believe that ever would have been a good thing for us to integrate with that particular type of people, because their whole entire existence is based off of raping, pillaging, and destruction. And there's nothing that you can do collectively to build with a people, or I should say a kind of man that has that mentality and that lack of morality. So I don't think that would have ever benefited us, would be my answer.
Shay. It's powerful,
Yes,
brother.
sir. Okay.
And undeniable. Undeniable.
Look, I just bought a brand new book that just got here this week. I thought I had it in here where I'm at, but it's in another room. I wanted to jump up and get it, but I'll share that at a later time. But that book really went heavy into some of what I was sharing. But yeah, that's real, and that's facts, Shy Guys, for sure. But that's right. Wow. Okay, Baba. So yeah, I'm ready to go. I don't want to hit no more detours before we hit the last part.
No detours, man. We on the right road and on the right, and going in the right direction.
I guess.
All right. So let's talk about now. We're just going to segue into the Alaase. Again, for all of the years of study, okay, and various levels of initiations, it was through stepping out of the ceremonial box and coming to grips with how important it is to braid intellect into spirituality, as opposed to, stripping intellect and mental capacity away and being somewhat subjected to the emotionality of religiosity. Okay. We want to get worked up, you know what I mean? And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I am not now nor ever I'm going to sit in judgment or condemnation. Okay. I'll state my observations, and then I'll move on to what my studies and my understandings and travels and initiations have led to. Okay. Okay. All right. Baba,
Yes, sir.
Orisha Ben.
Yeah, you good, bro?
Could just take that down. Thank you. Now, now we're looking at the Allah Ashe. And again, we looked at this term ALA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've had people from Islamic background, try to draw Allah out of that because of the Islamic invasion and influence. Okay. And the northern and probably not too heavy in Nigeria, but influential enough, impactful enough. And I'm like, nah, that doesn't really resonate with me because different people have the same kind of way of speaking. You know what I'm saying? So what about this? So Allah Ashe, Allah Fia is transparent. Are you clear today? Are you transparent today, as opposed to are you at peace today? Peace is Toro. Peace is not Allah. Allah Fia. Or are you walking with or with your clarity today? Okay. So you see, it's moving from, oh, I'm at peace with this more of like an emotional feeling to I'm with clarity today. My perception is turned on today. My Ori is awake. Okay. And I'm walking with clarity. Okay. I'm seeing beyond sight. Okay. So, again, when we start taking on these terms and we start to change the language where we are, again, not invisible, but visible in our thinking and in our pursuit, not of happiness, again, an emotional, but in pursuit of deeper knowledge, in pursuit of deeper understanding, and then ultimately bringing it together to walk as the wise ones upon this earth. Okay, so we have the Allah Ashe. We see Allah and we see Ashe, right? The clarity of the essence of empowerment, being clear on what empowers us as individuals, as a tribe, and as a tribal nation. And then we have our empires. Okay. The first is Ifa Rabale, and in no specific order, which is composure. The second is Owa, which is respect. So we have composure, we have respect. Okay. The third is Suuru, which is patience. Then we have Eso, which is caution, being cautionary. Imo is knowledge. Ogbon is wisdom. And Oye, which is understanding. And those are the 7 pillars, if you will, of the Allah Ashe. Now let's look at them again. I'm just going to state them in English in order to, fine point. Okay. Composure. What is the power of composure? Well, let's look at the detriment of not having composure. Okay. Of being impulsive, of being driven by, the feeling of the moment, or the struggles within one's mind, one's inner conflicts. All of this leading to not being composed. And unfortunately, the term being composed seems to take on a very laid back kind of definition. Oh, he's so composed. He's so cooled out. No, composed is being able to go into battle with a stillness and state of mind. Okay. That is being composed. Composed is being the eye of stillness within the hurricane of life. That is composure. Now, how it's taught, that becomes a matter of your mentor, okay? And what I've not seen it happen, or where I've not seen it happening, is in elays and, you know, places of ceremony, and I like the word pageantry. Okay, so I've not had those discussions with people. I've not been around people who are even discussing the Alaase, much less the Ashuada. But we have to do it because we're visible. We're here now, and we have to understand what pillars are upholding us. These aren't commandments. These are ways of ascension that we can embark upon. Okay, respect. Okay, not just showing respect. Because like I always say, people can bow down in front of you and be the very ones plotting to overthrow you, to kill you. Okay. And of course, it has happened numerous times. Okay. So showing respect is one thing. Being respectful, that's something else. Okay. Because that's just part of who you are. I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to hold that door open for sisters. I'm not doing it for any ulterior motive. I'm just doing it because mama raised me right. Okay? You be respectful. Okay? And every time you're not, you're going to feel it until you learn. Okay? That respect is due. It's not how you position yourself. Okay?
Yep.
It's how you exert yourself. Okay? That's patience. Right. Suuru. Patience. Okay. And working with people, oh, I just got this and I just got that. Now I want something else. Now I want something else. Or I just got this blessing. What's next? Okay. If we demonstrate that we are so impatient or too impatient, it might be misinterpreted as greed. I always want more and I always want it quickly. And then it becomes desperation. I don't care how I get it or who I hurt to get it. Okay. And then it becomes, oh, I'm willing to do anything to get it. Oh, yeah, I need more money. I need more elbows. You know, I need to do this. I need to do that. And but that going, you just got initiated 2 days ago. You just got your elect case. Slow down. You know what I mean? Have patience. You know, the seed will grow if it's nurtured. Okay, but it takes time. It takes time. So take a breath and start to learn. Okay. What did it say? Put good use to use your time wisely. Right. Caution, being cautionary. All right. There are forces out there who tend to disrupt. That's just nature. That's just the way it is. Okay. But being, you know, cautionary. Okay. It's like, something doesn't feel right about this. And trusting that inner gut, okay, that inner warning, that intuition, okay, and saying, yeah, at one point I'm going to learn and to listen to myself. You know what I mean? That part inside of me that's like, but I went on and did it anyway.
Listen, right? Listen, that right there, man. Look, I gotta bring up a comment because with this one right here, there's another one I want to bring up, but I wanted to preface it before I bring it up because I wanted to like get your perspective on it because it was a dope comment. But I've had that conversation multiple times with the comment that I want to bring up next, but no, that's real, because that's, I'm a big advocate for intuition, like trying to encourage or inspire people to trust that intuition, because how powerful it is in regards to, what I mean, like how we make decisions and how we move, which could be, beneficial. But this comment, Sugarfoot said, I like how I feel like I'm lacking behind a lack of. I feel like I'm hiding behind a lack of knowledge of the culture, even though I was introduced to it at 8 years old. I'm 48 now. I literally just read the last pages of GC last night. I'm ready to study. First of all, shout out to her for finishing the book. Powerful piece, OG say. But also, that's a conversation I've had with people before. And my thing that I put in the comment, Sugarfoot Beauty, is that everybody's clock goes off at a different time. You know what I mean? So like, never let those limited beliefs of those types of thoughts to like lower your vibrational frequency, because no, you're not behind. You're in divine time. You know what I mean? And it's like, your experience is different from anybody else's experience. So just because somebody might be quote unquote ahead a little bit, what it might appear to be ahead in certain aspects of their journey, doesn't mean that they have anything on what your experience of with you and your child of guidance is in your journey. Like, you might be light years ahead of most people in regards to what your strength or your superpower or your gift is versus other people. You know what I mean? So it's like we all have different times where I feel like that clock goes off to where we hop up into the level of consciousness or the realms of consciousness, and when it elevates, you know what I mean? Because some people, it might just take one spark and you might just expand and be like that movie Lucy, you know what I'm saying? And be able to be able to access 100% of your brain power. Or even if you've seen the show Supercell, you know what I mean, on Netflix, where they have the ability to tap into that genetic code to activate certain levels of, superior, abilities, you know what I mean? So that's a real thing, like for real. So it's like, I always try to empower people and inspire people to like trust your child of guidance and your experience, because you do something unique and differently from anybody else. You know what I mean? And other people's, what may appear to be their journeys further ahead, might not necessarily be based upon what you came here to do to fulfill for your destiny, for your Ori. So it's really all on an individual level in regards to like the levels of the journey, more so than it is, with someone else being a further or ahead or behind you, you know what I mean, collectively, because we all bring a different piece to the puzzle. But as long as we bring our piece, that's what makes the all in the all more powerful in that piece of the puzzle. Like Outkast say, shout out to Dre 3000, the world's a stage, we all must play our part. So, my part is no better than your part. You know what I mean? It's just, I might be playing a different role than yours. You know what I mean? But at the same time, your whatever role that is going to be just as much needed, in the evolution and the expansion of the consciousness for the globe as mine or anybody else's. So we're all in this together. So don't ever let that, make you think that somebody else is doing better or farther along in their journey, than you, because of what it may appear on the outside. It's all about what's happening on the inside. Baba, what you think?
Well, I'm highlighting lack of knowledge, just to complement, the piece that you just laid down, because that's powerful. The past is never just the past. We bring through it, the who we are at the table, and where there's mutual respect. It's like, yeah, okay, you went through this, and as you were saying, Baba Rishabemi, yeah, I went through that, and together, it's exponential. You know what I mean? So it's that was powerful. That was powerful. Okay, but the lack of knowledge. Okay, I just want to briefly state that you come in at a good time. Okay, because now there are books out. Now there's the podcast. Now there's the social media. And now, there's so many roads and side roads and back roads, to attaining knowledge, as compared to, like, say, when I started, when basically everything was, Latino. Most books that we could get our hands on were either in Spanish or Iberian dominated. Be it Puerto Rican, Cuban, you know what I mean? The Portuguese folks with the candomblé. So it was all like a struggle, more or less. And then we have one or two, places that we could go. Things were happening in Brooklyn with John Mason and Oba Aala, so things were starting to happen. Myself, Baba James Small, we were all kind of, rolling with this and saying, we're going to make something out of this that is more specifically for our kindred. That's not exclusive, but we have to make it more digestible for our people. We can't be up in the colleges with, getting the big books on, Yoruba culture, 2000 BC to 1974, all of these big books that nobody was really reading. Okay. But there weren't in any of my Africana studies classes, but that's something else we can cover later on, in terms of all of our Africana studies didn't seem to, bring us into greater visibility in respect and in regards to Ifa and Isese. But again, so Sister Sugarfoot, I believe. So you have so much at your command now. Okay, the management of your time, along with your pursuit of knowledge, will combine. The braiding of your intellect with your spirituality will combine, and all together, like the braiding of the hair as a map to freedom. Okay, so will the braiding of all of these core elements come to, within your mind, a freedom, a liberation. Okay, so I personally thank you for reading the book and giving the book a shout out. Okay, and I invite you to read the other works, and then you can start to piece together. Also invite you to consider OGC Institute and or private classes with Baba Orisha Bami or myself. You see, so the lack of knowledge at this point becomes a mist. It's just, psst, okay? Because now you can make it concrete. You can get knowledge. You can get it. As we used to say, it's just a phone call away.
Yeah. Shout out to Nkosi. That's what he was saying. He was saying, the fact that you are here, that right there is telling you that you're on point, you're on path. So I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
So everything happens for a reason, in divine time.
All right.
That's facts.
I just want to be an excellent devotee first. I love that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I was just having that conversation last night, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. What happened?
Well, just talking to a client, and it's like it's been a lot in a good way. Things picking up, so it's been a challenge. But I appreciate it. That's what I pray for. So it's like, but just sharing in regards to like the journey. And I think the question was like, should I get initiated before getting trained, or get trained before getting initiated? I would probably say go with your spirit. But personally, the way we move in the institute and with Ashe is to work towards the training aspects first. But I know some people, circumstances are different. Sometimes, I've heard of people that had to get initiated to save their lives, you know what I mean? Or, for a lot of other different reasons and purposes. So everybody, like I said, earlier, everybody's journey and path is different. But I was like, whichever way you go, as long as you stay dedicated and committed to the training aspect, you're going to be good either way. Because you have some people who, you and I have spoke about this, who might not have been initiated not one time, but maybe be more powerful than someone who's been initiated 5 times to 5 different deities or societies, and you know what I mean, and still ain't really did nothing with not one of them, let alone 5 of them. So it all depends on the journey, your work ethic, your discipline, your dedication, you know what I mean, like how you choose to do what you do with your ashe and your journey, your ministry, like that. That's really what's more impactful, with or without the title, like you were saying earlier about of the initiations or the chieftaincies, all that, etc. Because you can be a powerful healer without taking one, initiation. You know what I mean? Like, and then you can have 12 initiations and titles and not affected not one person, in a positive way. So it all depends on path of the person. And I feel like how you unfold and develop on your path to living out your destiny. You know?
Yeah, I mean, and just to echo, okay. Well, you got to figure for the 7 days that a person is to be, going through initiatory process. Each one of those days actually represents a year.
I was just telling somebody about that. Yeah, I was just telling somebody about that.
Yeah, I mean, and I have not seen, okay, where let's just say being initiated was a life-saving course of action. For example, now I've been around for a minute, okay? Say, for example, we're working with the Mirandi Lagoon, and for your newbies out there, just kind of bear with the old heads for a minute, all right?
I usually have some close quarters, close by I can show, but I think I had them packed up from when I was traveling.
We're not even going to go there, okay? But people studying the Mirandi Lagoon, and those who will be studying, say all the shells are down, okay? There you go, get a divination, Bobby Ian, okay? Notice I said divination, not reading, okay? Cast the shells, and all of them are down. Opira, O-P-I-R-A. Now, the ancestral way that I've come to understand is that, yes, death is imminent, okay? Now, what you're suffering from, what you're going through, okay? Of course, we need to handle that. But that spirit of death, something needs to be done. And this is where we find the animal sacrifice at its epitome. The epitome of the Ebo is to save the life of the devotee. Okay. So the hole is dug. Okay. Incantations, prayers, if you will, are made. And then the animal is sacrificed so that you not be sacrificed. Okay. So that you not be taken. And so, so again, when we who study the quote unquote tradition, when we study the Odu Ifa, and we start to kind of look with squinted eyes at what's being told to people, why it's being told to them, and how much they're being charged, okay, then it becomes a matter of, am I going to do that? Bruh, for 7 years, people were telling me, oh, well, if you don't make Oba Tala, Oba Tala is not going to do this, and you're going to have struggles, and, be careful because you might lose your mind. Oba Tala wants you to make Ocha, or, like yesterday. Brother. Brother.
They ain't know who they were talking to, huh, Baba? They ain't know.
I didn't, I'm not here to assassinate characters. I'm not here because people do what they've been taught, and they run with the crew that they run with. And if that's how they running, then that's how they running. Okay. But my crew don't run like that. You know what I mean? It ain't no, oh, you're going to lose your life. You need to do this. Or if you don't do this, you're not going to get the job. Da, 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 da. No, it's like, we have to understand that Ifa and Isese is about bringing you to fruition. Okay. And if the Ebo needs to be done for your life, that is the Ebo for your life. It doesn't indicate in a very monastic sense that you have to do this to protect your child. Well, who protected you? They didn't go through initiation, and here you standing here at 30-something years old with a child. Okay, so we again, the invisibility factor. We don't see our own ashe. We don't commune Okay, we don't see that perhaps, you know, the way things have come to be weren't really the way things are or were. And why not question it? Why not question it? Okay, in order to be clear, because Oba Aala, the eldest of the Orisha, is about clarity. And if you're in Ifani Sheshe and you're unclear about something, then you have every right to question it by the right of you as a human being and by the blessing of Oba Aala. And I'm saying this as an Oba Aala priest of 40-something years. You have the right to question it. Do I have to really do this? If I was to read my story right now, I should have been dead at least 4 or 5 times. And I'm here, I am 72 years old, still kicking. You know what I mean? Still kicking. So I'm a witness to it. But that doesn't mean I just sat back and did nothing. It means like I have to study. I have to learn this. I have to travel. I have to journalize. I have to come to grips with what this is really about. And not just because somebody told me. How are you going to grow that way? We're not children. We're adults. The onus is on us, not on the Orisha.
That's fact.
Not on the ancestors, not on the Ifa. All of that lends to the empowerment of who we are. Orisha, get it through your head. Orisha, the empowerment of the Ori. Whose Ori? Yours. And how can you say you into Orisha if you're not even, you know, flipping the switch on to your own capacity, your own capabilities, and your own way of analytically paving the road to your ascension to Orisha.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah, I like that comment, by Sugarfoot. So, in regards to her comment, or I can't tell if it's male or female, but hopefully, you know, I'm assuming it's a female because it's hard to read the pictures. But with that, yeah, it's challenges. Since I thought they did an update because they were bigger the last few times. I don't know what's going on, but anywho, I like what she said with that comment because that is, I feel like I agree with that. One of the questions before we get out of here, Baba, and kind of in scope or in light of what she said, how would you recommend as being a healer, right? This is something that I've been trying to figure out, and I feel like my approach is effective with quite a few, but also sometimes I feel like it's not, with others, and I feel like everybody responds or reacts to things differently. So with that, just like medication, like for example, if I take a half a little 5 milligram gummy of melatonin, boy, it'll have me feeling like I was out on the town drinking and turning up till 4 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Whereas, shoot, my son, like I know young people or even my sons or whoever like can eat them like they candy and wake up and pop up like nothing happened. So I know my tolerance is clearly I have a lot more in me, I guess, than other people. But some people it doesn't do anything for. So I say all that as a comparison to us as healers when we're pouring into people. I'm asking you now as a veteran, in this space of healing, what would be one of your primary approaches to getting someone to believe in the potential that you see in them where they might not necessarily see it in themselves? How would you recommend working on getting that to kind of, I guess, create that spark within someone for them to see the potential that you see in them? Because I feel like I know you've dealt with that before. I know you have. If I have, I know you have. So, how would you recommend?
Okay, yesterday. All right, because this is what we do. We're the priestly order. We're the sacerdotal order. If there's any question about what our job is, it is to get people from the one level to the next. We are about bringing forth divinity from within, not giving up divinity or having no inclination to even, you know, exert effort for our divinity because we've given it up. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go over all my techniques. Okay. But I will state this one primarily. And those who know me know it to be true. Okay. The major way that road is open for healing is to take into account what that person's interests and capabilities are. And dare I say capacity. For example, I can look in someone's eyes and say, okay, you're an artist. I can see the paintings in your eyes. Okay. Right, Sister Shah? All right. And then it's like, now we're going into the different types of paintings. Okay. We're going into the next room, literally. Okay. And now it's like, you know, those paintings are beautiful. I want to utilize those paintings in this shrine that I'm building, in this pot that I'm consecrating, which is the new book. Okay. You see the equating? So she's lending her ashe, her blessings, her destiny as that artist in the world who paints the sky and the clouds and the moons. Okay. And say this is towards the enlightenment continual of this person, not I don't care about what you're doing. That has nothing to do with Orisha. You know, Oshun wants you to do this, and Oba Aala, you know, everybody wants you to do everything except what you were brought here to do. And once we resonate with each other on that level, the healing not only takes place with the individual, the artist, the writer, the entrepreneur, the Ashuada, you know, core groups. Okay. But it also is a healing to the priestly order. Okay. Every time I heal somebody, I further heal myself. Every time I bring light to someone, the light inside of me shines brighter. And that's the reciprocity that needs to happen for the healing to take place.
That's powerful. Yeah, that's powerful, man. That's very powerful. Yeah. Speaking of which, real quick, because what I'm gonna do, like I was telling you about, I'm gonna make it a point to go extra hard for the celebration of Ashe birthday week. But yeah, so I'm bringing. Yes, sir, I see you. I appreciate you. But that's a nice dapper Don sweater you got going on there, man. I definitely like it. I'm feeling that.
I know the people who made this thing happen.
Man, listen, look, what you say? It ain't who you know. What you know is who you know. Is that what they say? Yes, sir. Man, so I'm gonna share this real quick on the way out because we'll definitely be back, family. If not tomorrow, Friday for sure. But I'm definitely looking forward to turning it up for like the next week straight to celebrate the birthday of Ashe, man. Because it's been a beautiful year. So I look forward to putting together like a nice little montage with some of the highlights throughout the year to celebrate. You know, 1 year, man, we done made it to 3K, knocking off 4 organically. We ain't paid no Fiverr VAs to crunch the numbers or do anything like that. We just came and showed up, man, and showed love, and we, you know, it's reciprocal. But with that, got a chance to chop it up with the Young Kings this week, and one of the way that this week's discussion went, it was about leadership. But one of the brothers who I work with asked, like, did I have a quote for him to start? I was like, yeah, I got one. And so it was the quote was, I can't even remember where I heard this from, but I like it because it makes people think. So the quote was, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. And so what I did is I shared the quote and I restated it a couple times to really make sure that it sunk in. And then I asked, each individual, like, where was there a time that you saw that you could have, taken advantage of a huge opportunity if you were prepared, and vice versa? When was there a time where you know that you were prepared for an opportunity, but you didn't have it. You know what I mean? And like, how were you able to use critical thinking to put 2 and 2 together to figure out how could you be more prepared the next time, so that way if opportunity does present itself, you're prepared to capitalize off of the opportunity. So I'm throwing that out to the tribe, you know, with based off of where we've been in the last year. And, you know, Spirit led me to share the fact that when we're talking about heroes, I always got to bring up one of my favorite ones, which is the Honorable El Hajj El Malik El Shabazz, who has a birthday coming up in the next little over a month or so. But I share with them that, you know, just because we're here doesn't mean that that's where we're destined to stay. And what I meant by that is because I'm working with a demographic that's been through some challenges. So the goal is to get them, you know, to the right direction. And what I came to me is that when you come here, you may come here as Detroit Red, but my goal is to make sure that I do everything I can to help you leave here as Malcolm X. So I put that out to the tribe, like, you know, we all have to start somewhere. Like Malcolm didn't start as Malcolm, that polished orator, that powerful, prolific, you know what I'm saying, leader of the globe. He didn't start that way. No, he started as a hustler, you know what I'm saying, like breaking into cars and pimping and selling dope and doing all kind of crazy ish. But it took time for him to reach, you know, that time and point where he was alone with his thoughts and he was alone with spirit. And he then found what his why was, his reason for being, his reason for existing. And once he found that, we saw the transformation like none other. You know, he went from Detroit Red to the Honorable Malcolm X, also known as Honorable El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I challenge, you know, the tribe to think about, we got a lot of opportunities in front of us to make an impact on the world. So are we going to be prepared to take care of it and seize the moment? You know what I mean? Or are we going to let the moment seize us? What you think?
Sure, brother.
Yes, sir. Sure. With that, Baba, you got anything you want to leave with the tribe?
I think they got a barrel full, man. They're going to be rolling this barrel all the way out to the fields, man. You know,
yes,
we are nurturing the soil, okay? The seeds are being planted. But I do give homage to all and to the wonder and glory of Ifa and Isese, you know, being more visible, you know, unto oneself, being authentic, working with clarity, and working with the Allah Ashe, those seven pillars. And then, you know, through our classes, coming up with exercises to assist in the composure, to assist in the respect, and on and on. Okay? All right.
Sure. I say. Nah, that's what's up. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have another live stream episode of the African Spirituality Experience under our belt. So I appreciate all the love, support, the likes, the subscribes. If you're watching the channel and you're not subscribed, we definitely would appreciate it if you could just hit that button 2 times, man, and hit that click, you know, and turn all the notifications on, because we definitely appreciate you tuning in. We would appreciate it just a tad bit more if you did subscribe. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate the love, support, man. Definitely, as always, Baba, appreciate you coming and dropping diamonds all over the doggone Ashe streets. We definitely appreciate you, Baba. So, and you was. I'm looking at the comments, man. You definitely was. So, you know, I appreciate it. So we'll be back, family. We'll definitely be back in the very near future to get this thing cracking again. And we're going to make it do what it do, babe. We're going to make it do what it do. So with that, peace. We out. And we'll see y'all on the next episode. Ashe, Odabo. We out, fam. Peace.
Ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé sàpò ìyàgbọ́ tẹ́ǹtì ẹni takísà ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo sí ẹni gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́. Forsake not your ancestors and praise your